This is the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. Here's your host, Corey Tusick.
This is the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. On today's episode, I talk with Sean Culkin. Sean Culkin is an NFL tight end who recently came out in the news saying that he was going to take his entire 2021 salary in Bitcoin. So Sean and I had a great conversation about that. We got some good comparisons of, the ups and downs of the NFL life, whether it's getting released or injured and what it's like to go through that ups and downs and how to kind of, mentally separate yourself from that and rise above it and not get too high or get too low. And there's a lot of similarities we found with that and with Bitcoin, especially given today, the big dip in Bitcoin and how to basically separate yourself and become mentally tough and, rise above the ups and downs and never get too high or never get too low. So we had a great conversation about that. Also, got to talk about how he met his girlfriend, which is a great story. We talked some other sports stuff, kind of mixed in back and forth between, football and back to finance and Bitcoin and how it all kind of intertwines together and how he got this strong of an investment thesis where he was like, yeah, pay me in Bitcoin. That's what I want. So I hope you guys enjoy this show. You can reach out to me, Bitcoin Made Simple podcast @gmail.com. And on Twitter, I'm at Bitcoin Simply. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. So you mentioned your girlfriend helped you with the mic setup and everything, and she's a reporter for Access Hollywood. Is that who you went on the date with?
Yeah. So that day on E! News. So the story on that is long, but how it came to be, just had an opportunity to go on TV. I knew it was being filmed. I didn't know that she had an earpiece and Juliana Rancic and Jason Kennedy were telling her everything to say. And sorry, who's calling me right now? That's one thing I gotta get fixed.
Oh yeah, no.
So
for those that haven't gone on Sean's website yet and seen the Access Hollywood where you basically go on a blind date and you knew it was going to be on TV, but you didn't know she was getting fed. What to say.
Yeah. So I'm on camera, just wow, she's coming out strong. She's coming out okay, oh, nice man bun, oh, their arms, that's how it's going to be on our wedding night. And I'm like, oh, all right, we're doing this, here we go. And just halfway through, had such a strong chemistry and wanted to get to know her more. And then at the end, I found out that Juliana Rancic and Jason Kennedy, and I was new, I didn't know entertainment television, who they even were. So they were incognito in a bus telling her everything to say. And I met him at the end, and it was just a big funny. It had a lot of hits. It was a good time. But 2 weeks later, I took her out and we went out 4 times that week and have been together now. April 2nd was 2 years.
Oh, wow. So that's wild. Because it's funny because I watched that and I was sitting there I was like, oh, I wonder if they ever actually went on a real date, When I saw that, I was like, oh, because you always wonder with stuff like that. But that's wild. So you guys have been together for 2 years. That's awesome.
Yeah, 2 years. So we just got a house in Woodland Hills, California, and yeah, man, doing great, honestly.
That's good. It's much better, much better than the reality TV story. So do you remember the show? Oh God, it was on you're 8 years younger than me, so you probably don't remember this. It was on UPN and all those off channels, and it was it was Eliminate, where 3 girls would go out with a guy or 3 guys would go out with one girl, and she would eliminate them one by one.
Yeah, was it on MTV? Or something I'm sure they all MTV probably had similar.
Eventually got something like that.
Yeah.
It was in 9th or 10th grade that everybody basically went home, and it's you all watched that, and this is in the days of AOL Instant Messenger, so no MySpace, no
AIM, love it,
and no Facebook. And I'll never forget they had this episode where at the beginning you're oh, they shot this one in Pittsburgh. No way, and that's where I'm at. We're all IMing each other, oh, check it out, it's in Pittsburgh. And then we realized that one of the girls was our friend's older sister, and it opened up probably the worst 24 hours of his life because everybody's Doug's sister's on eliminate, like it just spreads
Right.
like wildfire. So like everybody in the school's watching it, and then she got eliminated, and and the reason she got eliminated, the guy said to the camera that when he was kissing her, it felt like he was kissing a man.
Kissing a man. Oh
Yeah,
no.
it was just like I remember we were like, oh man, like poor Doug. This is gonna be a bad day for Doug.
Bad date.
Yeah. So
Bad
you have a
day.
much better.
Yeah, my very better outcome for me. I was the fact I found her in that way too. Like she's from Ohio, I'm from Florida. I lived in Orange County at the time. I wasn't even in LA. She's in LA, like just super highly, dense,
I know.
locations
Like,
to find love in that setting, real love too. Not even like a fake, just put it on for social media, which is, starting to become a reoccurring theme. It seems like with these television shows. And man, I'm blessed, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So, and did you just like your agent set up like, hey, like you should do the show? And
No, it happened from, I think the producers from he was at E News at the time, and they just sent out like just feelers for the Rams, Chargers, Lakers, and I think maybe that might have been it. And I always joke that Zuri went through the roster list and single-handedly picked me, but she said she has no involvement. It was just another day of work for her, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it kept going back and forth, kept getting canceled. It wanted it to happen during the season, but I was hurt at the time with a back injury, and it looked bad to go on an off day and be on camera, during the season. So I just kind of assumed it was over. And then I happened to be training in the off season because I didn't have to be in Orange County either. And my, the head of PR for the Chargers was like, hey, you in town? Like, it's a go. I'm like, oh, let's do it. I'm there.
That's awesome.
And just showed up, and that was it, man. It was a wrap.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it had like 6 million views on Instagram at the time. Like it kind of blew up.
Oh, that's so wild. And that's such a crazy, I mean, that's an awesome story for you guys, to be able to tell. So how are things going, man? I mean, I know, so, for people that don't know how like the NFL works, it's like, I'm sure, especially a lot of people that are like in other countries, they probably see like the headlines that come out and they're like, oh my God, it's all over, and, but like kind of walk people through what it's like, because I mean, as you and I both know, like people get injured, and I mean, like there's injuries, and you're gonna get a call. Like it's not like it's not over for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So then you basically have to like work out like crazy and stay in shape. And
yeah. So in this time, because it's I mean, it's new for me in a way because I've never been released before. So yeah, make that knowing. I don't know if your listeners know. So a week ago, I got the call. So I've never had that before, and it's just you got to stay ready, right? So like last year, I had battled after rupturing my Achilles. So that was kind of I've been battle tested, honestly. It's been real. I have a lot of gratitude for the obstacles that I've faced in the last couple of years, because it went from, being undrafted. I have a pretty unique story. We could touch on that later, just on going from college to the NFL and also studying finance throughout all of it. But, I'm undrafted, made the team every year. I was 3 years with LA. And in my third year, it was starting to look like, I was really coming into my own, playing really high level ball. And just it was supposed to be a touchdown. I caught it on the 2-yard line. As soon as I landed, toe heel, ruptured the Achilles. I looked at Phil. Phil's like, Culk, you all right? I'm like, oh man, I think this is not good. So I crawled. I'm like sitting in the end zone, and we were playing the Dolphins, and I didn't score, and I tore my Achilles. I was like, damn. But so that's a year-long recovery, So it was a year ago, just having to tell my agent, hey, I'm not ready to play right now. I don't want to waste my time or a team's time. I just have to get healthy. And so I had to tell teams no throughout all of camp. And then when it came to the Ravens, the team I played with last year,
boo. Sorry, I'm from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, boo. But it was like 6 p.m. I just had a good workout, felt pretty good. And I called him up. I'm like, dude, shot me around. I'm good to go. And the next morning, got on a flight for a tryout, and I packed all of my bags because I knew I was going to be there the whole year. Sometimes you just show up and
Yeah, and then you have to have somebody send it for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like I knew wherever I was going, I was going to be there. That was my mentality. Packed my bags, and I was there the whole year. And yeah, signed a deal following that season right away with the Chiefs, which I was super excited for because I played college ball at Mizzou. And yeah, things is just were starting to really pick up steam for me. Had a great off season. I was excited to show because I still haven't been to Kansas City at this time. I still, we were all virtual. And yeah, they got the call that was cut. So right now it's just staying ready, continuing to work on my craft and increase my skill set on the field, stay conditioned, stay strong, stay healthy, and know that opportunities are going to come and capitalize on it. So it's definitely been testing mentally, but again, so much gratitude for the way I think and how I will handle future obstacles in my life.
Yeah, and I feel like getting into the Bitcoin world probably helps you with that.
Yeah, man. Like today, especially, right? It's like I tweeted, I was like, this is new for me, not for Bitcoin, but like for me, I just the ability to detach emotions has been a skill set for me, because if I got, impacted by every bad thing that happened to me, I would just never be able to grow. So I've developed a level of resiliency that I can use as an investor. And when it comes to Bitcoin being even more volatile, it's definitely paid dividends for not even flinching about selling. I've been buying every opportunity. I literally put in 2 orders before I got on this. So we'll see if they get filled.
I know. Where'd you put yours? I put one at 33. I'm just hoping that it wicks down and picks it.
Yeah, I know. I in the past, I've been really good at just putting it low, big size, see what happens. And now I'm this kind of I don't care. It's lower than I thought it would ever get to. This is, I believe, to be short term. I'm just buying. So I put mine, I think, like 36.5. I think it's at 37 something. I put 36.5. I put one at 36, and I put a larger one, I think, lower. And yeah,
I knew as soon as I placed the order whenever it was like at 34, and I'd missed it go to 33, but I was like, let's see if it dips back down again. And I was like, just watch. This is going to be when it never goes back to 33. Like I could let that order sit there for the end till the end of time. It'll never touch 33, which should everybody be okay with. But yeah, it's wild today. Well, and a little bit more about football. So, it's interesting. I don't know. I don't think I told you, but like I have some friends that played in the NFL back. I mean, they were older than me, so this is a while ago. A funny story. So I'll just tell this real quick.
Yeah,
it's not about
please
me.
do. Yeah.
But so my buddies, like my 2 best friends, are twins, and like the 3 of us are like I was an athlete, they were swimmers, but like we were also like big, huge nerds, and they were like they made like really good like rap beats, like they on like Fruity Loops and like other computer programs. And so they sold them to like decent, like nothing that was like a huge radio hit, but they made a lot of money off of it.
Yeah.
And there was this guy on the Steelers named Chucky Akobe that that was a rapper, and he started buying songs from my friend, and we're like, hey dude, we're local, and he's like, oh no way. And then the Steelers win the Super Bowl, and it's 2005, and we're like, and he's like been talking to like chatting back and forth a little bit at that point.
Yeah.
And then he goes like we get together with him to like have a business meeting, and then randomly that summer he goes like, hey, do you guys want to come to the Super Bowl ring like after party? And we're like, what?
Do you even need to ask?
No, I know, right? And so it's funny because I was 19 at the time, and it was at like a 21 and older club, and like walked up. It was like probably like the coolest feeling at that point in my life, where we walked up to the door and like the bouncer's asking us for IDs, and I start doing the like patting my pants, like,
right. Yeah.
And then like a couple of the Steelers come out, and like the people waiting in line to get into the club are like, hey, like all like cheering, and like they put their arms around me, and they were like, he's with us. And I was like, what? Like,
What is
in the
happening?
world? So it was like we were in there with like, I mean, like Ike Taylor and Casey Hampton and James Ferrier, like
Wow,
Hines
that's
Ward, Jerome Bettis, all those guys.
really
It was wild, and my parents could not understand why like a professional athlete would want to be hanging out with us nerds. I was like, I don't know, maybe he wants to get a discount on his rap beats. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but so the reason I bring that up is that he, I would just want to say like for persistence, like to stick with it,
Hmm.
because he was the backup center for like 5 or 6 years, and then he had a back injury. He recovered from that. Um, and then Jeff Hardings was the center, and he left, and he was going to be the incumbent. He was going to take over, but Bill Cowher retired at that time, and
Oh,
Mike
okay. Yeah.
Tomlin came in, and Mike Tomlin brought like his own guy. Like
Yeah.
coaches just have their
Which many
guy,
do, right? Yeah.
and so he basically got cut from that. But then he stuck with it, and he wrote it out till as long as he could. I mean, at least a couple more years. I want to say like 3 more years. I think ended up in Arizona for a little bit, maybe with the Texans for a little bit. And like it's just like I always thought like it was a sign of like persistence, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like how many people would just be like, all right, this is it, like it's over, I blew my shot.
100%. It definitely, like I said, it develops just a battle tested, resilient mindset to push through, like you said, just be persistent and pursuing to achieve your goals, right? It doesn't matter what's in the line ahead of you. And for me, like that example is kind of based off performance and maybe politics with the coaching staff coming in and this other players. So like it's hard too, like it's the same thing. But the added element of an injury was a whole new world for me. So like going through months of like being on a scooter and you can't walk and you can't put weight bearing on it for so long, like, and you're losing weight and you go through so much time, being a high level athlete, professional athlete. It's just who you are, right? I would like to say that I'm more than just an athlete. Like my success so far in football doesn't define who I am as a man, but that's so easy to say. It's what I've done my whole life, right? Sports, right? So when it's taken away from you and then you have questions and uncertainty on whether you're going to get back, and then the opportunity, are you going to be able to capitalize? Can you run like you used to? Like that was a whole nother just paradigm of just perseverance and now, yeah. And then I have gratitude for those lessons I've learned for like right now, right? Like, it's like I had such a lot of positivity, a lot of momentum, made the announcement, things were going well, and then boom. And like, I can't speculate as to why, like what's going on, what's next. I just know the value that I provide on the field and what kind of leader and teammate I am when it comes to the locker room, and control what I can control and just continue to do my thing. And yeah, right now I'm kind of going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, which has been, really, really cool because I believe in it so much. And I'm still just, even amid all this entropy, I find stable ground, and that's what I can ask for. Right. So,
Yeah, I mean, it kind of the parallels there of like, like you said, who you are as a man, as a person. Um, so when the ups and downs of football in your professional life, you're not gonna let that affect who you are. And then it kind of is like similar with Bitcoin. It's like, you understand what Bitcoin is. So like, does this even phase you?
right. Yeah. Like when you were saying about the price, like I'm late to the game too, right? Like I don't have a huge stack that I bought when it was, a couple $1,000s. So for me, I'm in the accumulation phase. Obviously, I wanted to get my whole salary in it.
Yeah.
And so for me, the fundamentals of it, the properties of Bitcoin and how it's going to be used in this digitized network, I am just the quantity is what I'm concerned with. And yes, I want to try to get as much for as little dollars as possible, but I know that it's prime just pristine assets that are fixed in supply, right? And that are just completely verified and its issuance rate, so transparent on how it's going to look over the coming years. And for me, that's why I was like, man, if I'm trying to accumulate this asset, and I believe so many others are trying to do the same, like, why would I not want to get paid in it when it's different than any other security? Because it's a different element to supply and demand, because the supply is deflationary by nature, and at one point fixed. It will remain constant, but demand will increase. And I know what that does to the price movement. And yeah, is it going to be chaotic to that point? But yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it has been, but it's a long-term play, decade-long play for me minimum. And I actually have no intentions to ever sell my Bitcoin. It's generational for me. So these are just opportunities. And I've been trying to condition myself and others that I don't try to press it, but like, why do we view dips as such a bad thing, right? People just let their emotions take over and they get so fearful and they sell. I would go as far as to say, unless it was just a terrible investment thesis in the beginning, but like, if you sell anything long term, you'll probably have regret.
Yeah.
Like I've never had a transaction where I sell a security and just been like, yeah, that was a great choice. I'm really glad, because I can look up a month, 2, 3, a year later, and oh man, I'd be in the money right now.
Yeah, I should have held that. Like, unless you sold Enron at the peak,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, just the psychology of investing is really interesting to me, especially given the environment now with how much social media has an impact on what people do, right? And like the influencers that are vocal and promote a certain coin. And as we've all experienced in the last week, and the turbulence that's happened with Elon and just Dave from Barstool, Dave Portnoy now, promoting Ask Coin, like this whole like creating the coinization thing, and just it's a weird. I don't know. I don't think it's here to stay, right? Mm-hmm. And I just hope people that dabble in other digital assets, aren't scarred mentally to where they can't fully, go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and see the hope that it provides.
It's the only thing, they, going down the altcoin rabbit hole is actually what made me basically become a Bitcoin maximalist. So like, people will be like, oh, you're just a maxi pad, and like, you don't want to, focus on anything else. But like, I did literally the opposite. With like, so I was looking at this thing with my streaming company, and I was like, oh, we could do like an ICO. Like, we were building the investment platform, and we're like, okay, like, you could do like a coin, basically like the basic attention token, or all those different ones where it's like, there's a way, earn rewards, that like pay out royalties to people through a coin. So it's like, when people say that like you didn't explore, it's like, dude, I went down the rabbit hole of like trying to create an altcoin. Yeah. And when I got to the bottom of that, I realized that Bitcoin's the only thing, and that anything that you're going to build in the alt world should just be built on as a second layer.
Yeah, second layer protocol. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that stuff. And it's like, even at the time, I didn't fully understand it. And then I had Guy Swan on, and he explained it to me of like how it's like the protocol layer is Bitcoin, like the internet, and like Internet Explorer is on top of the protocol, everything is on top of the protocol. So it's like, wouldn't you want to own a piece of that protocol? Like,
yeah,
could you imagine if you owned just 1/21 millionth of all the internet service, and you somehow made like royalties off of all the transactions that happen on top of it?
Right. And then, take it another step further, think that you can sell and hope to get it back like at that price, or I just like, with something that high in demand and the utility and value that you just described, like I couldn't imagine selling for fiat.
Yeah.
or selling at all. Like I like when Michael Saylor talks like, you know, if you're going to buy a yacht, a plane, a jet, or if you're going to like, you know, do something to help somebody's life, like you're going to save a life, or
Yeah.
you're going to marry off your daughter or need to fund a wedding, like, cool. Yeah. You have some profit, you know, take some profit, but to put it in another asset that's probably offering negative real yields, or just trading sideways if you denominate the asset in the Fed's balance sheet, like, where are you actually? Yeah, right. You're not preserving or increasing your wealth.
Oh, and speaking of which, I just thought, I was like, let me just take a peek. And it could, like you talking about how like it's so valuable. Why would you wait? So I'm sitting there, I'm like, why would I wait? Why would I wait till 33,000?
Yeah.
And it's so funny. So I'm like, I just wanted to like open up my like real quick, and it's at 40.
Yeah. Is it at 40?
Yeah. Like,
Oh, I don't know if mine didn't place in. It's already back to 40.
it's like,
That's hilarious.
you know, it's just like people don't understand how valuable it, and like even us, like when we're sitting there and like it's like, okay, instead of just buying it at the market price, like I'm like, let me try to cheat the market, you know, and get it at
Yeah.
33 as opposed to 34. And it's like, no, stupid, just buy it
Right.
and sit on it. You know,
Yeah.
it's just,
And as the prices continues to rise, like every pullback, you know, this becomes another opportunity to buy. Right. And it doesn't matter what the price is. Like I don't tell people, like, when it's roaring, like, yeah, it's probably not the best time to buy right now if you're trying to get an entry position.
yeah,
But it's going to pull back, whether it's 5, 10, 15%, like that probably will happen. And, you know, it's all how we view it, right? It's all our frame of reference. So when it's trading at 80 and it goes down to 65, I'm going to be buying like crazy.
yeah. Oh,
like 65 will be cheap. You know, it's just really interesting.
It's just funny to see like the mindset, like people, like your tweet yesterday where you said, you know, all those people like retweet if all you had people,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
said they were going to buy when it was in the 30s.
In the 30s. Yeah.
And then it was just silence, you know?
Because when it's trading at 40, 45, 50, you know, they want to come across as like this savvy, you know, prudent, control their emotion. I'm not going to buy that. I'll wait till it pulls back.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here it is. Now what are you doing?
You have no excuse now.
Right. Like, again, unless the thesis changes dramatically, short-term volatility has no impact on the long-term thesis. Like my duration to hold this asset is, you know, it sounds crazy, but forever, right?
Yep.
But it's yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point early on, like between what I've gone through with football and Bitcoin, and then now the timing of the price movement. Like there's opportunities to learn from it, right? And like take key points and first level principles that you can apply to your life and how you operate. And it's been really cool. A lot of growth, you know, in this as a person individually. And I'm sure that could be said for a lot of people out there right now. And then the people that are just selling like crazy, you know, they're going to make those same mistakes. Right. So,
yeah. So I have to ask you, have you and Thor ever been in the same room at the same time? Just to break the
right to break the ice. No, I've never been in the room with him.
So you might be Thor then.
I could be Thor. That'd be like somebody that we all expect to be Satoshi saying, I could be Satoshi or something. Like the funny thing, I remember it was my senior year and I was a basketball guy my whole life, right? So I'm like, you know, 215 my senior year, you know, which is very small for a tight end. I'm 255 now. And I watched Thor with my brother. I was at I think it was University of Georgia. I think I was in Athens. And we were watching Thor, and I was like, yo, that's gonna be me one day, man. I'm gonna be big like that. And he's like, what? No, I had short hair, super short hair. Didn't touch the hair. My school had a dress code. Couldn't touch the top of the ear or the top of the collar. And he's like, no way. And I was like, just wait. And the next year I went to Mizzou, and like Thor coming out and me being in college the timing of that could not have been better.
Oh yeah.
It was, yeah, it was, I was like known for the guy that looked like Thor instead of
A
the guy
football
on a
player.
football team. Yeah, right.
That's funny. So Mizzou, I mean, Mizzou's got a great basketball team too. So was there any temptation? Did you have any prospects to go play basketball too?
Yeah, no, I thought about it. So um, I think I had like 5, 6, or 7 offers coming out for basketball, and pretty much every single one were the teams that got the invite to the dance that would be eliminated in round 1, except for like
Yeah.
Davidson. Davidson was a good one, with Seth Curry, but Liberty University is a big Christian school in Lynchburg, Virginia. That's where my brother went, played football there. That was my first offer. And my whole town kind of thought I was going to go for basketball. And then I started to even have this idea like, hey, wait, maybe I could go to Duke for football on a scholarship and just be like the hype man on the basketball team playing in Cameron. That'd be an incredible experience, just being on the team. And then my plans and goals got bigger. Like I was like, I want to play at the next level. I know I can play in the NFL. That probably won't be in the best interest of doing that, because I can imagine being, a dual sport athlete in D1 at a D1 school and take academics serious and have a social life. And I'll share on that too, on just the combination of what I did with school and football. But yeah, at one point I said my senior year, if I have no prospect to go to the NFL, yeah, I'll probably try to play both. Why not? But yeah, just didn't.
That's it is tough because I mean I hate how like nowadays a lot of kids are pushed into like one sport like really early on,
Yeah.
And I mean it happened older for me, like it was like 10th grade or whatever, and the baseball coach was like, look, I know hockey playoffs are happening right now, but everyone else is here for winter workouts and spring workouts, so you got to be here or you can't play. And I was like just kind of sick of fighting it at that point, so I was just like whatever, and I was just done with baseball. And then it's like I look back on it, I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't have stopped. Like, I could have just had 2 more years of playing baseball, and
I'm definitely going to tell my kids to do both, right? Like just
as long as you can, at least. Like in college makes sense. Like once
right. Just throughout high school, right? Like it's just, there's kids now, parents are pushing and directing their kids to stop and focus on one sport in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. And that's just the recipe for the kid to be burnt out, I think.
Yeah.
That young of age, just to put all of your energy into one sport, especially if you have an interest to play another and you're told you can't, like that's not going to be good or healthy. So, and I think the skill sets needed for each sport can kind of, they overlap and they can benefit and increase your performance in another sport better than if you just trained and did sprint work and lifted year round. Like playing basketball had a huge impact on me playing, my red zone skills with being a tight end, right, in college and high school and NFL. It's and then track helped me so much with my speed and my endurance. And then football, helped me with my basketball, like being big and being physical in the paint. So baseball, hand-eye coordination, right? Just
they don't see I know a lot of people that, especially probably outside the US, don't really know what like with the tight end, but like you said with the red zone, like you're down low, like being the big man on a basketball court and boxing out and like being able to go up and get it at its highest point and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, wasn't Antonio Gates like he was a basketball star?
It's a rebound, right? And I played with Gates.
With him?
So I've been very fortunate to play with some really, really great tight ends. So coming in my rookie year, playing with Gates and Hunter Henry,
Hall of Famer,
Hall of Famer, and also playing with Philip Rivers as a quarterback. That was incredible. Just complete different dimension to how I view the game. Just learning from him, and then going off into the Ravens. You look at between their fullback, their blocking tight end, and receiving tight end with Pat Ricard, Nick Boyle, and Mark Andrews. Like those are like some of the best blocking, best route runner, best fullback. So I learned a lot in my time there. And then I was really excited to play with Kelsey. So I think that's big. Like I don't view competition as a negative thing. It drives out the best of me. And there's times where people are just better. They're really good at their skill set and they're great players and learn.
Yeah.
I ask the vets, I study their game. I take notes. I review my notes. I look and just give an honest opinion of what I can do and how can I fit that part in my game. And I think that mentality can be applied to anything in life, truly. Like I think just the skill sets I've learned mentally in sports, I think are transferable skills to any career that I'll do when I'm done playing. So yeah, it's been cool. But Gates is the stuff. Some of the stuff he would do though, you just couldn't add your game. Me and Hunter would be like, I can't do that. That's he's just crossed the dude up and just
like some of the times he goes up and like, I mean, he was such a big guy too,
Yeah.
And
I know your joke. He's a biscuit away from playing nose tackle.
He really was though, Yeah. He's like, you're like, is that a lineman or no? That's a tight end. Then all of a sudden, oh my God, he's flying down the field. He's got hops and like one-hand catches. Like I remember this one that he made. This one game, I think they were playing in Cleveland in the snow, and he made this like just like the nastiest one-hand catch and like tiptoed in the snow, and like I'm like, that guy is so nimble. And like here I am, like I think I'd be nimble, and I walk outside and like slip on like the the snow. I'm not trying to catch a football and get tackled all at the same time.
Get your feet down, the elegance, right? To get your 2 feet down, catch the ball, secure it. Somebody's coming in and punch it out. That's the one thing in the NFL.
They punch it out a lot more than in college.
Well, yeah, it's just like every time you elevate to the next level, your your margin of error is so small, like on getting open. So in high school, you'd have like 5 feet of separation, a quarterback that's open. In college, it's probably like an arm's distance, maybe 2. Quarterbacks throwing it in. NFL, if you just have just a little bit of separation, or if the guy's even on you, like a good, accurate quarterback will just put it on you, and you got to make contested catches. That was the first thing that I realized in the differences between the different levels. Like, yes, you're the blocking.
Just going to be wide open.
Yeah, right. You're not going to be wide open. Everybody's big. Everyone's fast. Everyone's, you're talking about the best. And, playing in the SEC, that really helped me and my blocking ability, especially the DNs that we had at Mizzou. We had some of the best. I could list you 7 guys right now that are all, we call them D-line zoo, just the caliber that we would produce. So blocking against those guys every day, that really trained me well for the next level.
Were you there with Ziggy Hood?
No, I miss Ziggy. Yeah, I miss Ziggy.
He was a beast in college.
Beast. So did he go to the Steelers? Are you picking?
Yeah,
he went to the
Steelers. Yeah. And if you'll notice, I'll go like everything will be Steelers centric. Like by the end of this, I will be trying to get you to call the Steelers, because their tight end situation, like Vance McDonald retired.
Right. Yep.
And I think that was pretty surprising. And Eric Ebron, and then they drafted Freiermuth from Penn State, the baby Gronk.
Baby Gronk. Yeah.
And but I was like, as soon as I saw your news, I was like, dude, he should have his agent call the Steelers, because they need like
my agent's in Pitt. My agent's based out of Pennsylvania, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so so you should maybe he could work some magic down there.
Yeah,
because I love Eric Ebron. He's a great athlete, but I mean, he'd probably even admit it, that like he's not a great blocker. Like
I think he's shoot, was he in a Pro Bowl? I know 2 years ago. Was he last year? Like I know he's one of the best, right?
Not last year, but he was a couple years ago. Yeah, with India.
Yeah, I think he doesn't claim to be a huge blocker, right? But like what he does in the pass game, it's pretty incredible. I remember him coming out because he was first round talent. I think he was selected in the first round to.
Was he always with Indy?
Colts?
Yeah,
Colts. And then I think it was just maybe just the one change. Yeah.
So maybe, yeah, if he end up in
Maybe
Pittsburgh,
Pitt.
yeah, I mean, our tight ends are it's so thin because they selected Fryermuth in the second round, but they have so many other needs that everybody was kind of surprised they took him. But that's how thin they are there. Like once Vance McDonald retired, it was like, oh crap, like
Right.
who's left.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm rooting for you to go anywhere, but I'd be rooting for you real hard to come to Pittsburgh
Yeah. We'll see what happens. You never know.
yeah,
You never know.
and
I'm just
and my son's getting really into football too now. Like we started playing Madden,
oh yeah.
and he's 5, and he's like, this is the coolest thing in the world. And
He's 5 and he's playing Madden. Is that what kids?
well, we don't.
Yeah, it
So
makes sense. Makes sense.
we're not big on like screen time or anything like that. But I got the one Spider-Man video game, and he like loved that, and he just
Yeah.
basically would like web sling around the city, like didn't actually do anything. And then he saw Madden sitting there, and he said, I want to play the football game. So I just put it on like arcade mode and let him like go to town, and
Right.
he's just having a blast. So right now, actually, let me grab this real quick.
Yeah. Go for it.
This is
Nice.
This is his little
There you
like
go.
plastic helmet.
Got it. Yep.
It's sitting right there because yeah, we'll be going outside and running around the backyard chanting "Here we go Steelers" while he's throwing touchdowns to himself, and
That's so fun.
yeah,
It's life goals, man. That being a dad, right? Like I can't wait for that moment.
It is awesome. Like we haven't gone to a Steelers game yet because I was like, NFL crowds can get a little intense, a little drunk.
Oh,
and so we went up to training camp and a couple years ago, and it was just like he wore his helmet and like his pads, and I mean he was just blown away. Like he just couldn't believe. He talks about it all the time still. He's like, how big the players were and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, totally.
That's so cool.
Going off on a tangent, but so talk about I guess your finance. People probably think I have like major ADD today because I'm just like all over the place. I'm like pew, pew, pew. But I want to make sure we get into your finance like background, like pre-Bitcoin. So that was your major at Mizzou, right?
Yeah. So it was my sophomore year. I was trying to decide what I had to declare a major, and I think it's important to note in this journey to just pursuing and understanding Bitcoin is my dad was a gold bug. So early on, I was kind of exposed to the philosophies that made gold attractive, right, as an investment. And so that was, understanding the fallacies of central banking and just kind of how the money system works. And although I was, young, I didn't fully understand it. And then I went to college and learned just what, they taught in the academia realm, just traditional finance. And, but I always had that in my, back of my mind. Mm-hmm. And then with this growing beast of an asset in Bitcoin on the side, just rising, right? So like that kind of like morphed in the way I, view just economics and finance today. But I fell in love with finance. I would actually read every assigned reading. I would wake up at 5 a.m. before workouts and read. It was the first time where I had a passion outside of football, that was, equivalent.
Like something consuming you, like just.
Yeah. And it was nice, just kind of, because I knew football would end at some point, right? Like whether it was when I graduated, a year in the league, 2, 10, 15, all very small in terms of your whole life. And I didn't want to look back and regret not taking advantage of a free education at the University of Missouri. And so I was just kind of like a dual sport. Yeah, or not dual sport. Just, I put a high value on my academics and education and learning, and it's increased as I've aged. It's even more so now. But at that time, I ended up getting a pretty highly competitive internship at Shelter Insurance, which is this Midwest insurance company. It's in like 14 states. And, I couldn't go to New York or Chicago or something like that for my internship because I had to stay in Columbia for football. So that provided great exposure to just the markets. I had my own Bloomberg terminal. I'm just sitting there geeking out on Excel spreadsheets all day. I was the equity research analyst, so we had 2 interns. There was 5 billion in AUM and the float. Because keep in mind this is an insurance firm, so it was a little different the investment outlook, because you had to remain solvent. You had to be pretty conservative. So we had 4 billion in fixed income, 1 billion in equity, and
you're probably just sitting there like, what?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Exactly. It was, eye-opening, but then just so vast and just so many learning opportunities. And I had some great mentors, and I got to go to New York for brokers meeting, and we got to sit down and meet a lot of people, and with Goldman and BlackRock and JP Morgan, and it was a really cool experience. But I was in my head, I was gearing myself for a life basically on Wall Street. I was I'm also studying for level 1 of the CFA at the time.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm going, I'm working 30 hours a week, plus football obligations at a D1 school, SEC.
More than that.
Yeah, right.
Which people don't know, SEC school. I mean, that is I always call it the NFL minor leagues. I mean, it's the next level. It's the
highest caliber. 100%.
So yeah, you're doing 30 hours a week at a job, and then you have your other job, which is football, which probably consumes 40, 50 hours a week.
Yeah, like the 30 hours a week was in the summers. I still worked 15 during the season, and in the off season I would bump that up a little bit even more. But yeah, in the summers, I mean, I'm like and I'm studying for the CFA, right? So that's that's the highest, most difficult exam that you could take in finance. And so I'm going 100 hours a week basically, and I'm still going out. Like I kind of didn't really take a back seat on the social life. So I'm going, I'm roaring.
Yeah. You're just having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
Days. Yeah. I didn't have a glamorous career in college with football. Like I went through 3 different offensive coordinators, or 4 position coaches.
That just really hampers players.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, you're changing a system. One system used me great. One system didn't. One system used me in so many different dimensions, but I didn't get the ball much. But I lasted in NFL because of my versatility and how I could line up in the backfield, line up in a slot, point of attack, cannon at the girt, play special teams. So, I have gratitude for that. But I knew I belonged, and it was looking like 5th to 7th round projections, but probably I was being pretty pragmatic, probably undrafted. But I didn't want to just not give that a chance and just go to Wall Street, and I would just have what if, forever. So I decided like, hey, that will be there, when I'm done playing. But right now I'm just going to pursue football.
Yeah.
But yeah, in that period though, I remember going across an article where it was like blockchain, Bitcoin, and I just early on saw
it's $300. I can't.
It was July 2016. It was $750. And Satoshi, I quickly viewed Satoshi remaining anonymous as George Washington type of situation, right? Just like for the greater good, remaining to be unknown. And I saw the narrative on how it could be digital gold. It's gold in the future. And you started to see the technological advancement our world was having leading up to then and now, and even more. It's like I knew early on to never bet against innovative thinking and technology. And that was a week before camp. And once you go to camp, that's 5 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night straight. So I didn't think about Bitcoin again for years. So unfortunate, because I didn't get skin in the game, and that's what's needed, right? If you don't actually risk capital that you risk, or not risk,
you have to be able to
earn. If you don't earn it and sacrifice time and energy, the whole thinking now for me is just time, energy, money, that circle, that just how they're all linked. And if you don't do that, yeah, you're never going to think about it. I don't care if it's paper trading. Yeah, trade $100,000 of fake money. It's like, yeah, good luck. 3 months later, you're like, oh, wait, my bad. I haven't looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that happened. But then I was teammates with Russell Okun for 3 years in LA. So we had some great conversations in the locker room. And I just could appreciate his contrarian view of thinking and just would be enlightened, honestly, on his viewpoints and how Bitcoin he thought was a solution. But still, I'm trying, like, every day, every week, you never know if you're getting released, in my situation in NFL. So all my focus, especially during the season, is football.
Yeah. Hyper-focused on it.
Yeah. So it wasn't until, March 2020 was a big thing. Still didn't buy it. I'm trying to get on my Achilles grind. And I knew something was up when I went to Zurich. I'm like, hey, finally, I know this is a terrible time for the world, but more than likely we're going to be able to get a house at a discount, like something that, like, if you look at cycles, this always happens, and we haven't had one yet in our lifetime. And that never happened, right? You just saw asset inflation just starting to rise, equities starting to rise. I'm like, man, like, did like Michael Saylor says, like, did the value in equities appreciate by 25%, or just the monetary expansion rate increased to 25%? Like, the cost of capital has changed. Corporations and businesses now have to include their treasury management within the risk management, right? Because they can no longer view currency and your short-term assets as, safe in a way. Like, you're going to destroy capital. So just that, and going down the rabbit hole, I finally purchased some. I got hurt actually playing against the Steelers this past year. I got a high ankle sprain.
Was that the game that
the COVID game that, like, 12 o'clock in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week on a Wednesday?
That was like the worst. that was the worst game. It was supposed to be Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, and then it got delayed to like Tuesday.
Yeah.
It started at like 1 or something like that. And I was just like, I remember sitting there, like, I was like, okay, I'm done working so I can watch the Steeler game.
Right. Yeah. It was weird. It was weird. I mean, it was already a weird situation because no fans were in the stadium for the games leading up to that. But I got hurt. High ankle, was out 5 weeks. So I remember sitting in the hot tub. I had a little time. I didn't have to prepare, as highly. So
you have Pittsburgh to thank for the.
I really do. Actually, Bud Dupree landed in the back of my knee. It could have been way worse.
And I actually remember that play.
You do?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It was like first, second series of the game. He landed in the back of my knee, and I thought it could have been terrible. And my knee was intact, but my ankle just got high ankle just got stuck in the ground. So,
and then he blew his knee out at the end of the game. He blew
his knee. Yeah, I know. Terrible.
It's wild. So you did luck out there in multiple ways. You didn't blow out your knee, and then you're sitting in the hot tub reading about
buying Bitcoin. That's when I bought it.
Buying it at that point.
I bought it in a hot tub. I got the account with I think it was Gemini at the time. Bought it, and that's a wrap, right? Like, that's where it begins and ends. Like, it's just me, really, because I had basic understanding, enough to put $4,000 or $5,000 in. Let's see what happens. And then through just my education, reading podcasts, consuming content, I built a level of conviction that made me question, like, why would I not get paid in an asset that has fixed supply and rising demand? And it's
deflate.
It's this non-discretionary component that I believe to be egalitarian, and by nature it's equitable, it's fair. You don't know who's benefiting the most in the consensus process and the voting. Anyone can open a node, and it's open source. Like, I was like, man, this is just stuff that's new, and it's storing wealth, accreting at 200% a year. First asset to go to $1 trillion in 12 years in such a short time, or $1 trillion market cap. And just the way you could send it, right? The whole time and space.
Like Robert Breedlove type stuff.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I love Robert's material, dude. It's really crazy the way he's it just makes you think, right? Like again, time, like, and then so I'm like, okay, I'm also, this year for me, the word was like optimal, like optimize. So I tried to optimize pretty much smaller everyday decisions, but big ones, like just really try to detach emotionally and make rational decisions. So I'm like, I'm playing this game that is, you know, risking my health for sure. I know it to be short, making all this, you know, great money. I don't care if it's league minimum, which I have been the whole year. I've always been league minimum, which I think is even more, you know, a part that made my story kind of unique. It's like, I'm not a multimillionaire that was just like,
you're not the
screw it.
one
Yeah.
that can just like throw money around.
Yeah,
and
this was a big move for me. And I just didn't think it'd be possible to be optimal in fiat. And then, okay, if you're going to do fiat and then do what I've done traditionally and investing some of it in other assets and, you know, diversified portfolio, 60-40, whatever have you, maybe some private opportunities, but it's like, what asset class do I trust right now?
Certainly
if I
not
gave you
this
$1 million,
paper dollar.
right? If I gave you $1 million, what do you trust right now? And yeah, it's not the dollar. That's, at least I think people are now, okay, this is not going to be, whether it's structure or not, like we have transitory inflation, we have asset and have had asset inflation, and look at time, the cost of entry, the barrier to invest in stocks and real estate. Like how do you do it unless you have just a unique occupation? How do you buy a home right now? Like me buying this home in LA, the process to do that, it was crazy. Like in 3 weeks time, I had somebody offer $180,000 more than what I got it for in 3 weeks. I'm like, man, that is a guy that doesn't know Bitcoin, doesn't understand it, or doesn't have the balls for it, but knows what's going on. And he's just trying to get precious, you know, hard assets. And
that's my one of my business partners moved from LA to Texas during COVID, like just recently. And he was like, they were in Santa Clarita, so like, you know, good, like pretty good neighborhood. And yeah, they got like, I want to say they got like 200,000 over asking.
dude, one, if you don't come in all cash, good luck. We lucked out. We were getting outbid. You have to waive all of your contingencies.
Like
and
no
people are coming in.
inspection.
No one's, waive the inspection, waive the loan approval contingency, waive the appraisal contingency, you know, really exposing yourself to already buying probably a pretty overpriced, maybe, I don't know, asset. And then when you even try to go down that route, somebody's can come in 100K over asking price, all cash. So the LA market was extremely competitive. So I have no doubts when your friend says 200K after, like that's happening left and right.
So you guys got 180. Somebody offered 180K after you bought it.
Yeah, it ended up being it's crazy how we got
profit.
it. But yeah,
like,
I know.
We like this house, but
it turned into, hey, we'll give you like 100K. It was like 100, 120K, you know, over what you know you got. And we were like, no, our agent said, well, you know, the closing costs, all the escrow, all that, like, no, he's like, we'll give you whatever it is to where you net 125,000, like after everything. Jeez. And I'm like, what? And we didn't want to do it, honestly, because
you could just go.
We love this home. We just got settled down, and we love this. We're really fortunate. Like the views, and like, we don't want to give, you know, price numbers, but like, I'm not a multimillionaire, but we just, the view I view it as 10 million, man. I just love, like, to me intrinsically it's worth so much, and I got it for such a good deal to take, you know, short term, you know, 100K, pay taxes, have to find another place, or continue to rent and just waste money. I just, like, long term, again, it doesn't make sense. Again, that's kind of the story, the theme in this thing, right? Is it rational? Does it make sense long term? And willing to, you know, delay short term satisfaction for long term gratification.
Have the right time preference.
Time preference, exactly. Low time preference, which is
always trippy to me. Rare. Like it's backwards. It's like it's low time preference for looking longer into the future,
right?
Which I don't really fully understand why it's lower, but, you know,
I just view it as like, how much do you value now? Like, do you want it now? do you need payment and the yield and return now, then you have a high time preference. Like you run it now. Or if it's like, I don't need it right now. Like I haven't, it's like this time, my time right now, it's low, because I know long term it's better.
Yeah.
So
you're basically all into the hard assets now. And
yeah, but with the house and now Bitcoin and yeah. Like I kind of view my exposure already to fixed income and equities as it's becoming more the hedge, in my eyes, against Bitcoin in this new digitized world that I think is just, analogous to, the inception of the internet. I think like you said, it's you're buying parts of an internet of the protocol that these second layer protocols on a second layer will run on top of, and like you're buying, what makes it all happen. And yeah, I think that just, 10, 15 years, you're going to see how this disrupts traditional finance. I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. And I'm very humble. I will admit if I'm wrong. But right now, this is my thesis, and I was willing to put skin in the game. Like people, because I hate the whole Ponzi element, right? And there's a lot of shit coins out there, right? That are Ponzi's. And what was this, the stat or tweet? Like you need to do at least 40 hours of research to really understand Bitcoin. And I couldn't agree more, at least. And I don't think people are, but the Ponzi thing, I'm like, okay, like, because a part of it too, one, why don't you just buy it on your own and then you control when you buy it? When I, wanted to convert my whole salary, like, well, it's during the season. I don't want to worry about that. I want a dollar cost average Bitcoin. Take my emotions out of it. I don't want to buy. I just want to consistently buy every week. And two, if, Bitcoiners are getting this rap from people that don't know, like, oh, you're just trying to pump up the price to increase your wealth. No. I'm like, okay, well, here I am agreeing to buy at whatever price through 2021, future. Basically is like through my pay period would go through. And I'm mentally agreeing to buy over $100,000 purchase price for Bitcoin. And I'm okay with that because I know long-term it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, you're thinking, you're thinking it's going to be over 100K come, the beginning of the season when you start getting paychecks.
Yeah. I had to be okay with two things. One, it's going to have a big dip and people are going to think you're a lunatic. And I've developed an iron stomach from just what people already say on Twitter before this, as like being in an SEC school, right? Like the fans are just, they love you and then they hate you. It's like,
they're pretty ruthless.
Pretty volatile, right?
Yeah.
So
maybe if you're an SEC fan, they could probably relate. If you're an SEC fan, it's pretty similar to like the Bitcoin Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, it's all part of a purpose, man. I can see it. The more I talk on these podcasts, I'm really enjoying this conversation, by the way, but like the more I talk about my experience, the more it's like all coming to be. I'm like, wow, that made you do this and that made you do that. And that developed that mindset. And here you are unfazed by all this chaos, right?
Yeah.
Because you're growing. But yeah, so knowing two things, it's going to correct. People are going to think you're an idiot, and you're probably buying it over 100,000 at some point.
It's not like you have that cash right now.
I didn't get the cash advance, right? Yeah, because I'm on a deal that's, it's not guaranteed, and most guys' contracts, especially in the NFL, are not guaranteed.
Which that's a whole nother subject.
Right. So basically, I would tell people that had, skeptical opinion, like, hey, Ponzi, you sure? Or you think I missed it. It's too pricey for me, man. I got to go to Doge. I'm like, all right, well, my skin in the game's here and I'm agreeing to this. Honestly, I don't have anything else to say to you.
Yeah.
Like that's all you need to know on what I think about, one, which asset I prefer the most. What's my viewpoints on Bitcoin versus other digital currencies? I didn't pick Ethereum. I didn't pick other altcoins. Mm-hmm. And two, what I think the price will be in the future.
Yeah. So the, I mean, because I guess a lot of people, even probably the average American sports fan, doesn't realize how you guys get paid like game checks. Like it's not like you get paid like every 2 weeks through the whole year. So you have this like influx where, basically from September through December, you get just crushed with cash,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you're like just empty from feast
And
or
they, and
famine.
this the recent what's it called, the CBA, the
Oh
collective
yeah,
bargaining agreement, they changed that, which I was kind of bummed about, because I would actually prefer like, typically it's actually, we get, if there's 16 games, one bye week, 17 weeks, I think you get like 9 checks. It's like every bi-weekly, but it also depends team to team. Some will pay you weekly. So but like for me, my experience with the Chargers for the 3 years were every 2 weeks I'm getting 2 game checks, and then I get this one on top for like the bye week, and that's it. So then that's how a lot of people go broke too, because they show up for the next season needing the cash. And I'm
they
talking
need that
guys
cash
making
flow,
millions, might be getting a game check, 300,000 biweekly, and
Yep.
needing, it doesn't make sense to me. So that's a big part of what I'm trying to do too, is educate people, regardless of the investment vehicle, just how to not go broke. 75% of athletes go broke 3 years out of the league. That stat might be outdated, but I know when, the documentary, the 30 for 30 on broke came out, like that was a stat. I hope it's getting better, but I'm just trying to do my part too, to inspire and help with.
It's like the culture. It's like the fiat culture of like consumerism and
Consumption.
like just like consuming whatever's there. Like I remember watching, I think it was the Hard Knocks when the Browns were in Hard Knocks, um, and one of their guys was sitting there trying to explain, like he was like holding like a seminar for like investing to people and like trying to explain to them like, hey, like you're making this much right now, but like the average NFL career is what, like 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's like,
I
think it's 2.8. I think it's like 2.83 you get vested. But
so you've exceeded.
I think it's yeah. No, I've exceeded. I've been blessed, man. At least to
But yeah, it's
be, we're at 4 or 5. Yeah, going in my 5th year.
but
But
yeah, it's like they get dumped all this cash and they don't know, they don't know that it's not gonna, like they just think, oh,
yeah,
okay, I'm gonna have this forever. And like, and even like I'm sure you follow like Joe Pompliano,
yeah,
and
he does some really cool threads on the business side of sports. Yeah.
And then he was, I think he retweeted, it was one former GM, I think, that was talking about when they drafted a guy and they signed him after the draft, like undrafted, and said there was $1,000 signing bonus. And the kid said, oh, like I only have $300 in my account, but I promise you I'll have $1,000 by the time I get there. And he was like, no, 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 no. Like we pay you. You're not paying us to,
Yeah.
it's just
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
like the education on what
Financial
happens.
illiteracy, it's not taught in schools. I see a lot of that. I hope at this point it is. I haven't been to a high school or middle school. I hope that it is. But
I don't know. It's pretty bad. I think around like
is
I
it?
think just I just think the average person, like people. It's like, oh, it could be athletes, it could be musicians, it could be movie stars that don't know how to manage.
Mhm.
But I'm like, I don't know. Like getting into Bitcoin, and I look around just like the regular world. I'm like whenever I knew people were getting hit with stimulus checks, and I'm looking around seeing like, okay, trampoline, like
Right.
people are buying trampolines, people are buying
Yep.
things they don't need, and I'm like, all right, like I don't think anybody knows what's going on,
Yeah.
like it's like the Weimar
And
Republic.
yeah, the Weimar. Yeah. Yeah. I know I've wanted to do a lot of reading on that. I haven't. But I know there's some similarities, right, in this environment, and the unemployment aid is the check system, or the stim checks, right? Like those are, the fiscal stimulus right now walks and talks like UBI, right?
Yep.
It's and you're seeing almost like a structural shift,
Where
like
people are just
away
getting,
from free markets to like a market dependent on the government. Like the labor force is shrinking. Like I think like the private market has to almost compete with the public market for income, right? Like the private market isn't willing to spend what the public is, and that's why stimulus has been injected. And
people aren't willing to work now. Like
right.
there's a pizza shop where they were like, we don't. They were like super backed up, and they were like, we we'd love to be working faster, but people are making more money sitting at home.
Yeah, it's
You
crazy.
know?
But when you increase, reliance, and you become victim to government reliance, we decrease our sovereignty, right? To act in the way that we seem fit, right? Like, or deem fit. Like, that's what Robert Breedlove, was really explaining well with his podcast with Lex
Oh
Friedman.
yeah.
And yeah, I've had to watch that thing twice. Like, that thing is
Yeah. That's deep.
complex, deep. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like peeling back. As somebody said, they were like, it's like taking a DMT trip. Like, feel like you're on like like a whole nother level when you listen to
Right.
him. Where it's
Yeah.
just like, wow, where does this guy's mind? How does it get there? You
Right.
know, but
Right.
it is. It's kind of like an epidemic. And really, like Bitcoin is the antidote. You
Yeah.
know, of, and I think COVID has just ramped everything up, kind of like fan the flames of things that have been brewing. Like that was, I've said before, the thing that threw me like full into like going all in with Bitcoin was whenever I learned about the quantitative easing that had
Yeah.
been happening since 2008, and I was like, oh my god, like run around the house, sell everything,
Right. Right.
like
Right.
put it all in Bitcoin because this is a joke, like this has been fake for how long, and then have you ever gone to that WTF happened in 1971.com?
No, but I know what happened in 1971. But yeah, what's the WTF?
It's actually Peter McCormick's producer Ben.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Him and this other guy run it, and they just basically like show statistics and charts of like all these things that like went awry since 1971.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it's like, wow, what happened in 1971? Oh, we went
Yeah.
off the gold standard.
Off the gold standard, went to a
It's
fractional
like
reserve system.
divorce rates went up, like obesity went up, like,
Oh, interesting. I just looked at, like, I think you need 6.5 million to be, the same purchasing power of a millionaire in
oh
1971.
yeah,
But yeah, that's interesting that it makes sense, right? Like, that's where a lot of, like, I think Bitcoin is a solution to the wealth gap too, right? Because if you look at, it's the first time where it kind of transcends politics. I've been able to have conversations with somebody on the far right and the far left
yep,
and implement Bitcoin as a solution. And we all kind of agree, like, oh, I
yeah,
can see how that could work. And that doesn't happen in politics, right?
no,
So you look at all the, the solutions in this current regime and, left-sided policy. It's like, yeah, it's designed to help, but is the money actually getting into the pockets that, people need it? And then is that just increasingly continuing to inflate this massive bubble? Like, if you're in the bottom 45%, you don't have investable assets. It's just, you're in a rat race, man, and wages aren't rising.
yeah.
Like, prices are to you in regard to what you can purchase. And yeah, it's
That's a big thing. I mean, for me, it's like, seeing the wealth gap and like, just seeing people that are, not necessarily like in poverty, but, people that are just like middle class, like, and you're just like, wow, you were getting robbed right underneath your nose. You don't even know it. And like, how are they ever, like you said, it's a rat race. How are they ever going to get off the hamster wheel? You
yeah,
know, like
right,
you're going to be on that thing. They want you to run on that thing until you die.
yeah,
They
yeah,
just want you to keep going, and it keeps the machine going.
yeah,
It keeps them, like I had I think I tweeted about it with the Elon thing, and I was like, the reason Elon and like Mark Cuban and them aren't comfortable with Bitcoin is because they've been benefiting from this broken system.
yeah, right, right,
Like
right,
they're in the position, like if you're one of the wealthy elites, like you don't want this to change.
yeah,
The
yeah.
fiat system works
The fiat
great.
system worked great. Like, and then, the whole 60-40 split, I think, of fixed income and the positions they had that there when they're paying, 12, 15% years back, way back. Right. And then we just had, and then the decrease in rates, right, just driving up value in fixed income as well. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then and now we're at the point where we're basically at negative rates, essentially,
Yeah.
in real rates. What do you do? Do you increase rates? Do you,
it.
the boomers, the timing of the boomers, retiring and pension funds reliant. And we know what, any type of increase, marginal increase in rates and what that does to DCF models and growth stocks, especially, and how much that's a part of people's, retirement portfolio to do what's needed. A lot of people will get crushed, right? And I know that they have a dual mandate, but it seems like now the mandate is, prevent a recession at all costs. Like, don't allow corrections. Just never, just Band-Aid.
Kick the can down the road a little bit further, bit further.
And I get it. It's tough. It'd be hard, right? To be in that, like, it'd be hard.
It takes, it takes moral courage, and it takes people to, like, I have no interest in ever being in politics, so I'd never do it. But like, if I was going to be a politician, I'd have the balls to go up there and be like, look, this isn't going to be easy, but like, we have to fix some things, you know what I mean? But they're all worried about their getting reelected, and they want to keep their gravy train going. And it's funny. I don't mean that because your girlfriend's in the media, but I always say, I mean the news media. I say the media and the politicians are the two lowest layers of the, like, scum of the earth, and I can't figure out which one's which. They're like so
which one's which. Yeah,
they're so mushed together that, like, I can't tell, like, which one's below the other.
Yeah.
And it's like a really negative way to look at the world. Like, I've been told by people, they're like,
well, it's true. Like, when it comes to the dissemination of news, right? And just
it's like we're all being
fabricated truths too, right? Yeah, exactly. Right.
No matter what, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you're being lied to.
Yeah, and headlines
manipulated.
No one's reading the actual article, and the headlines are just completely different stories. They're not reflecting what's actually written, or if it's written, sometimes it's not even reflecting, the true situation. So, like, if the one thing I've learned the most in the last year has been to do my own thinking and think for myself. And if I don't understand, just understand. Like, spend the time to research and think through it. So you don't have to know it right away. Maybe take a day, come back to it. How are you viewing it then? And just continue to learn and build decisions off that, and not trust and take everything that's told or said to you as truth, right? And it requires work. It requires mental exhaustion. And if you're just wanting to watch Netflix all day, go work 8 to 5, come home, eat whatever, and watch Netflix, and wake up and do it the next day, and then live for your weekend to get drunk, and
you're in a prison.
Like, well, yeah, I don't blame it. And then you're just thinking, oh, let's just get loaded up in debt for, schooling, and pay it off slowly, and I'll retire.
Yeah.
That's what I'm supposed to do. And I'm here to tell people that's not always that's not how it works. And it's also not the most optimal outcome. And I just hope that there's enough adoption to where this can get spread, right? To where people can really see, the light, and understand sound money principles and fundamentals. And it seems like it's starting to happen.
I think so. And I think a lot more athletes are going to start coming across, and that's why I'm glad, like, because it's like you get the bad news, and you gotta take a beat, and that sucks, and but you'll bounce back, you'll land on your feet, you're going to get a job somewhere, somebody's going to that phone's going to ring, but like, I think it's important for you to, I think you've become like a pretty good leader in the Bitcoin world, like, because I'm sure there's a lot of athletes that are looking at you and Russ, and and then there's a lot of just regular Bitcoin plebs that are like sitting there. I think they can relate to you a lot, probably more, because I mean, obviously your situation is completely different than somebody that's just making ends meet, but you're, like you said, you're not the huge millionaire that's rolling around in like a Rolls Royce, and like you get it, like you get you get the strains that people are under and what they have to deal with.
Yeah, it's the more I've learned like the pleb culture, right? Like I'm like, man, like am I a pleb? Like I've had a very minimalist lifestyle, very frugal. Quick funny story. So I've driven my 2009 Dodge Ram truck since high school.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm trying to sell it now, but actually a year ago, actually maybe it might have been 2 years ago, my heat and AC stopped working. And I just
In
view
LA.
in LA, but I'm like, I don't need it in LA kind of. It's beautiful out here. It's just a little cold in the
Windows
morning,
down.
hot in the afternoons and certain times of the year. And I just view expenses as opportunity cost. Like, what could that do for me elsewhere? So I have not fixed the heat or AC. And now the funny thing is, a month ago, because I'm driving 3-4 times a week to Orange County for my training sessions and therapy. So I'm spending, gas prices are rising, right? So I'm spending a good amount of money in gas. So I get a Tesla and I can justify it economically. I'm going to keep this thing for 15 years. The productivity increase on, when I'm on the highway, autopilot, like that thing is actually incredible. Like on how just your leisure and just so convenient, right? It changed the way driving is, I will say.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
then this past weekend, my guy Elon just, so I'm like, man, Zuri said, I got to sell this thing.
Yeah, I got to get rid of this.
I got to get rid of it. But no, I don't think I'll, make an emotional decision, right? Like that. But yeah, just between that and and I've tried to explain too. I've been very transparent. Like, and people are like, "Oh, it's only a matter of time until we just start going to go to the altcoins thing." It's almost like people are
they're waiting for you to do it.
Yeah, and like maybe I just have to like openly say it, but like I stray away from Bitcoin maximalist because I don't want to be dogmatic to not consider another option, because I'm like, we're trying to get people to look at Bitcoin, right? Like get out of the traditional, like
you have to be open-minded.
Yeah, like open-minded to do that. So being open-minded to hear somebody else and the use case for their digital currency. But the more I research, the more I find the properties of Bitcoin through its scarcity and its security, and just like I said, the non-discretionary, very transparent issuance rate, fixed supply. Like there's nothing else like it, right? Like Russ says, like I'm a freedom maximalist. I'm like, I can resonate with that. Do I fault people that want to, scalp or trade momentum in a digital currency and they want to make some money? Like, no, I truly like, dude, if you're trying to make this because you think you're gonna make short-term profit and you're gonna throw in a couple thousand, or you're talking maybe with some other younger retail, like hundreds of dollars, like I want to be like, man, come across so hard and then basically make him never want to go down the Bitcoin. I want to be kind of just, okay, cool. But like at some point you're gonna go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and understand, like when it comes to big money, come to 100% of your salary.
Yeah.
I picked Bitcoin, right? Like, would Ethereum outperform? That was everyone was saying that. Would it outperform? Maybe it could. Cool. But like,
maybe it will for 12
way
months.
More risky. Yeah. Right. So I would never do that.
And it's decentralized.
Right.
It's like, you don't know if
exactly
going to just print more. And
yeah, no, exactly. So, and proof of work, man. It's needed. That's what makes it. That's what I'm, if it's not proof of work, I don't mess with it. So,
and that's what, because Guy Swan, have you ever listened to his Bitcoin Audible? Like, reads the articles?
I don't think I have, actually.
It's great if you have like articles that you want to read, where you're like, oh, I don't have time. Like, where could I can't read this while I'm driving or something like that, or working out.
Plenty of time like that. Yeah.
He reads like the articles and makes it just an audible form. But anyways, nice. He was talking about, what was the point that I was trying to make? He said something about, what were we just talking about?
We were talking about the Bitcoin maximalist versus other assets trading, proof of work.
Oh yeah. So because the Elon FUD of like him coming out and saying like all the hash power is concentrated in China, and it was like, dude, like if you had just done like 5 minutes of research, like that's embarrassing that he hasn't looked that far into it because I didn't live through the block size war in 2017, but Guy was telling me, he said that like Coinbase, like the guys that own Coinbase,
Mm-hmm.
and everything, like all the miners were like, we're switching over, we're hard forking to this new thing, and we're not going to do, what Bitcoin is. They
Increase the
think that
block size, right?
yeah,
Like
they wanted to
yeah,
increase the block size. We're going to do that. And they had 90% of the mining power wanted to change Bitcoin, and they were incapable of doing it because all the nodes, like the majority of the nodes, were like, "Go ahead, like we'll try. Go ahead and try. Doesn't
yeah,
matter."
right, right, right.
It's like it's just amazing to see like the power structure and like know that like, wow, this thing really is like basically invincible.
Yeah.
Like you can't.
With Jack Dorsey to say like not and no institution or person can stop this. And
Yeah, there was the
yeah,
U.S. government in like 2011 hired this one investigator to like look into how to shut down Bitcoin. And like she spent like a year, and she came back and she was like, "You can't."
you can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Right.
like people were like, "Oh, what if the government shuts down?" Like, you believe me, if they could have, they would have.
They would have. And they probably could have maybe like in the first couple of years, right?
Yeah,
But
maybe
and
they
I
would
don't
have
think
had to
anyone
like,
knew that it would grow to this, this magnitude. But yeah, no, it's here. I mean, and that's Ross Stevens, I think that's his last name. Ross Stevens was talking about like when you look at normal distributions and you cut off, a left tail, event, like the fact the probability of it going to zero, like what that does to the mean.
yeah,
And Bitcoin's not going to zero.
yeah.
And
I think it's like 78% of the Bitcoin that exist are held by wallets that have never moved it.
yeah, yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
like people are like,
Hodlers,
what if
baby.
it goes to zero? It's like, no, it's like there are so many people that are even stronger than me, and like that have been in this since 2000. I mean, that's what it's a pretty cool story. Like, I'll send you the time I interviewed him, because the first time, because he was telling me he discovered in 2011, and him and his brother like bought it at like $30. It was like when he first discovered it was 10 cents, went up to
Wow.
$30, and then it crashed. And like he got like his bear market badge like right off the bat.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Um so I was
So
like,
they
man,
did.
like I tell him, I'm like, dude, you are like as close to an OG as possible, because like in 2011 I think I heard about it in 2012, 13. um and I should have bought then, but we all learned that lesson. So for all those
I'm
people that are sitting
2020
there
guy,
going,
man. I'm a
yeah, me,
2020 basically. I understood it. I wonder like why I never bought it. Um, just life, right? If you don't take the time, if you don't
no,
take
it's
the time to
a
do it, the research, and then get skin in the game, you won't. You'll be unaffected.
yep.
So
Yeah, that's exactly how I got to the point. I'm class of 2020 as well. I was fortunate to jump in um in March. I think it was at like 8,000 or something.
yeah,
And I was like,
that's nice.
oh, I
Yeah,
was like, let me jump in and see. And then like like you said, that made me get skin in the game, and I started listening to podcasts and everything.
yeah,
And that's when I heard Preston Pish talk about quantitative easing. And
yep,
I was like, what is this quantitative
right.
easing? And I mean, so it was like within a month
Right.
where
And
I
yield
went like,
curve control, right? Like quantitative
yeah,
easing, I think is, buying, fixed amount of long duration uh, securities, but at an unlimited price. Whereas yield curve control is fixed price, but just unlimited number of quantity. And that's what, like, I could be switched on that, but I think I'm right. And you're going to start to see that, right? To where when you start to see the treasury, the 10, the 20, the 30 year yield rise, the Fed
it's
will,
gonna
take
you-
force. Yeah.
it's gonna really push the market. And I mean, I don't know if you've listened to Preston, but he's pretty good. He's a like value investor guy, so he's pretty. They're all
Yeah. I love
great.
his material. There's a lot of great people, man, honestly,
Like
in this
I mean,
community. That's
you've and I told you, I'm like, I did mine. I'm doing this strictly to learn more about it. Like I'm not doing it. I don't run any ads in it. Like, I mean, it doesn't mean if it blows up, I wouldn't do something like that or whatever. But like, but it's crazy. Like, it just blows my mind that like how many people are like interested in this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm doing these conversations for myself, and if it helps somebody else, great. So you know, I appreciate you coming on to do that because are you thinking about doing anything yourself or getting into?
Yeah, I kind of thought about it, right? It's just like right now it's just football, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just, you know, going on as many podcasts as possible. And, you know, I'm actually going on Fox after this. So
Nice.
I'm just
Fox
just,
News.
Yeah, Fox News. Yeah. So I'm just kind of just,
or the regular,
I think Fox Business, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I'm just kind of wanting to learn and meet as many people as possible. And yeah, eventually if I feel I have a, you know, unique platform that's different than others, maybe, you know, more, you know, the overlap of football, finance and crypto. And, you know, I could maybe do a podcast, maybe, or, you know, work for a company when my playing days are done, in the crypto space, or, you know, creating my own, you know, like right now it's just, I know what I want to do with my contract, and I'm continuing to learn Bitcoin, and I'm going to make sure my body is at its peak to be the best football player this coming season. That's it.
That's what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Sean, I'm rooting for you. Really, really thank you. Appreciate you for coming on. And best of luck, and we'll keep in touch, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me. And yeah, definitely look forward to talking again.